I do know that, like, on my little, like, I've got a little cheat sheet that I give out to agents. We also use insurance toolkits, right? You guys don't even ask about like history of criminal activity.
Well, on final expense, no, I don't believe we do.
You don't know, or DUIs.
Right.
So, like, other carriers do. Today, I've got a special guest, the Vice President of Marketing and Sales for American Amicable. And we're going to talk about their final expense product, which, by the way, I am very happy to say, and I wasn't paid to say this, it is the truth, happens to be my number one product on my top 10 list for 2025 and going into 2026. With that being said, Mr. Pete Mejia, thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be on. Like I was telling you, I see you all the time. So I'm really excited. I'm a little bit nervous, but that's because you're a big deal. So I appreciate, no, seriously. I mean, you do. I have to tell you, the content that you put out there it's really intelligent, but I think it's also really helpful.
Thank you.
So it's nice to see you out there doing what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that, my friend. Very cool. So yeah, I want to kind of dig into the product and the application. Maybe first of all, from your perspective, what makes a competitive final expense product? Life insurance agents, if you'd like 20 life insurance appointments on your calendar every single day, all set by the clients themselves who expect to speak with you about burial life insurance, or if you'd like a copy of the free new agent remote sales file, lots of killer sales materials here, email me at doug@ufesonline.com or just click on the link below in the description.
Yeah, so the underwriting's got to make sense, right? I mean, every carrier is going to have different underwriting criteria, different risks that they can take, that they want to take. But at the same time, you also have to understand that a lot of people in this market, they have health issues. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're uninsurable, but there are going to be some issues as far, their health journey. By the time we get to our late 50s, 60s, and 70s, hopefully not much sooner than that, there's a health journey that's taking place. There's some medications that they're on. So there's got to be some flexibility there in regards to underwriting. Stickiness, I think, is super important. A lot of times in this market, there's just not a whole lot of extra cash they have in their bank account. It's not a knock on the market, but it is what it is. So the price has to make sense also for the consumer. We absolutely want it to be sticky, not just for us, but for you all as well. So there's got to be some reasons that policy sticks, such as riders, how's the premium taken out, when's it taking out, things of that nature. And then last but not least, I think that the ability, and we'll go over this more in a moment, the ability for the agent partner to explain, to fully paint the picture, to advocate for the people that they're trying to take care of. I think we do a really good job of that as well.
Excellent. Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about niches. And I know you don't sit there and look at the niches of your competitor. I know that's not your thing, but if there were any niches with the senior choice final expense product, what would they be?
Yeah, so you're right. You're right. Being in sales, I probably don't dig into underwriting as much as I should. They should probably go hand in hand more than they do with me. It's hard for me to keep up with. And we do some competitor analysis, Doug. I don't probably do as much as I possibly should. One that pops out is cancer. I think that, when you come into situations where there's been a history of cancer, I think you look at American Amicable first. If we're not going to do it on a day one /level /immediate basis, nobody else is either. You'd have to pivot to a guaranteed issue in that case. But our look back periods tend to be a little bit shorter on cancer. We tend to do much with histories of cancer. Now, current cancer is going to be a decline with our FE. So again, if you have a cancer situation and you think about American Amicable first, and we're not going to do it, there aren't going to be any others that are, other than a guaranteed issue, so you can quickly pivot there. If they smoke, our tobacco rates are very competitive. Driving history or criminal history, ours tend to be a little bit shorter look backs. There's a few others out there I know, but those are the ones that jump out.
Yep. And like I know, at least correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe you guys really, even on the application, ask about any type of mental health questions, depression, bipolar.
We
I don't even think you guys ask anything about that.
we
Even schizophrenia, if I'm right.
we do tend to, we'll actually see an app here in a moment. We can search for that. We do tend to, though, we do tend to handle mental health prescription medications. We do tend to handle those not necessarily more liberally than others, although in some cases there are. But there's also the ability for the agent to prescribe. What is the situation? What is the mental health situation? We do that better than, if not better than anyone, just as good as anyone.
Yeah, and that's true. Look, I do know that, like on my little, like I've got a little cheat sheet that I give out to agents. We also use insurance toolkits, right? But according to that, if it's right, you guys don't even ask about like history of criminal activity.
Well, on final expense, no, I don't believe we do.
You don't know, or DUIs.
Right.
So like other carriers do. Other carriers, that's a knockout. They don't want anything to do with that. I guess you guys just figure, they're older folks, they're going to get in trouble. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, if they've got some DUI situations when they're 78 years old. That's
I mean, the truth is, it's rare, anyways. It is
right.
rare. Um, I'm going to ask you about. I know you guys have a memorial guide, like a little memorial planning guide that comes with it. That's
Yeah, we
nice.
do.
But here's something that I find strange, and maybe you can answer this, maybe not. I know you guys have products that when the client buys those products, not the final expense, but other products, they automatically get access to the Everest funeral concierge program. But I don't believe that's available with the final expense product. What's the deal with that, man?
No, we do. Well, you're right. We do have one, and we can talk about that, but we do have a final expense plan that does have the Everest Funeral Concierge service tied to it.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, so that one is the exact same as Senior Choice, like the base plan. The
Okay.
differences are going to be in the premiums because on the Platinum Solution, there is an Everest Funeral Concierge service
Okay.
tied to it. Yeah.
Correct. So
So the
it's one of the other. It's a similar product, real similar, but
Oh, it no, it's again, it's the same thing
okay.
basically. It has a different name on it because it
Right.
comes with the Everest Funeral Concierge service to it, which by the way is an incredible plan.
Right.
We can talk more about that, about you guys getting access to that. That's not a problem.
Really,
Um,
I
oh yeah,
love
no,
that.
we can work with you on that.
Okay.
It's
Noted.
round, and not only am I not super intelligent when it comes to underwriting, I'm really not super intelligent when it comes to math, but you're probably looking at about anywhere from a 12-13% more premium than the Senior Choice. But that's why. I mean,
Okay. And
there's
that's why.
more added
Okay.
to it. Yeah,
Got it. Got it. So yeah, there's going to be give and takes. That
right.
makes sense.
But the underwriting's the same, the product specs are the same, the rider availability is the same.
Okay. Hey, can we get into an application? Can you show me what it's like to do that? I mean, I think that agents would love a training on that, especially if you can get right down to the signature process and show the different signature options for the clients.
Yep, sure can. Let me go to, this is it right here. So what I've done on this one is I've jumped into
Perfect.
the only step I'm missing here, Doug, is you go to insuranceapplication.com,
Right.
right? You click on the mobile app icon, and then you'll log in with your agent number and password. Okay. After you do that, it's going to take you to this screen. The new application is going to be very straightforward. You hit that. That's going to pop up company, which for those of you, which I think all of your agents are nowadays selling over the phone remotely,
Oh yeah, pretty much.
just understand that there's no difference between American Amicable and Occidental other than state availability. For example, Occidental is only available in New Jersey. American Amicable is not. Okay. Minnesota. American Amicable is only available in Minnesota. Occidental's not. All that to say, there may be some situations where you'd want to use American Amicable and not Occidental, but it is only because of state availability. If I
Gotcha.
select American Amicable, I select the product, senior choice, all the states that it's available in are going to pop up. You are going to select the state where the applicant physically is, not where you, the agent, are. Does that make sense?
It does.
So, and of course, you would need a non-residence license for that state. But after I select, and I went ahead and filled this out beforehand, so you don't have to watch me struggle to type. But we have an app here that has been filled out to Senior Choice app for the state of Texas. Most of this stuff is very straightforward. Name, date of birth, gender, do they use tobacco? This is something that is really popular with our agent partners, and that's the death benefit plan type, and this area in particular down here. Now, we know that we're always going to try to apply for immediate based on, let me back that up. We hope that we can apply for immediate because that is going to be the day one / level coverage for the applicant. And there's going to be some times, as you all know, where there's going to be some health information that is not given to you at this point yet. Even if you've done some pre-qualifying, there may be some medications that they forgot to mention. There may be some conditions that they forgot to mention. If I'm applying for immediate and I check this box here below, which in short is saying that the client is willing to accept whatever offer that we present to them. What this does, Doug, is this removes the requirement of having to get an amendment signed should they end up only qualifying for our graded or our return of premium death benefit plan, which of course is going to be based on health. Okay. So again, I've talked to the client. The client doesn't have any medications of concern. The client doesn't have any health conditions of concern that they have divulged to me at this point in time. I'm going to go ahead and click this box if they're willing to accept any plan that they qualify for.
Just in case.
Exactly. And then if it goes through that they should be graded based on them not telling me a medication or a condition that they have, we can issue the policy and it's not going to be an amendment required to finalize the case.
Nice. And the price stays the same. And what happens is the face drops to match the price.
Exactly. Now, you can counter that and they'll be able to do that if they want to, but we're not going to increase the price, right? We're going to go ahead and keep the price the same, lower the death benefit. If they want to pay more to get more higher death benefit, they can. But that's up to you all, the agent experts, the agent partners out there that are dealing with the individuals directly. If you wanted to add riders, and we'll talk more about rider availability in a moment, you would do that here. Right now, we're doing monthly mode. We're doing a face amount of $10,000. That comes out to $78.79. All this other stuff, pretty straightforward, I think. We're going to deliver the policy to the owner. We're going to do a check here for date on approval. We're not going to do a digital policy today, but we do have the ability to do digital policy, so we can email them if they want to do the digital policy.
Nice.
You can show a ledger presentation if you want to at this point in time. I'm going to continue on to the application.
Thank you.
And this is where we get into the health questions. So the first three would be the quote unquote knockouts. We're only declining around 7% of all of our final expense cases.
Wow.
7% may be a little bit high, but this is where we have they're currently in hospice or they're currently in a hospital or they have AIDS, HIV. All these, if they already have CHF, that's going to be a decline. If they already have Alzheimer's, that's going to be a decline. But once you step through these questions, this is kind of a waterfall effect, so to speak, as to what plan that they can be qualified or they can be applying for. If all the answers to this next set of questions are no, you'll know that you've gotten out of the quote unquote ROP area. Okay. For the next set, and we do remind people here that if they answer anything yes, questions 4 through 7, they should be applying for return of premium. The next set would be to get out of graded. And one thing that I do like to remind our agent partners on our graded plan, and I can show you a slide later on also, our graded plan is very different than some other carriers, quote unquote, graded. Our graded is a true graded death benefit. And again, I can show you a slide that help illustrate what I'm saying later on in a moment. But a lot of times, folks, if you do some pre-qualifying and you use Toolkit, for example, and you see that they fit into our graded and they fit into another carrier's quote unquote graded, a lot of times you have to write, I say you have to because it's a much better benefit. You should write our graded versus some other carriers graded because it's going to pay out very differently if they die in the first couple of years during the life of that policy. And again, I'll show you a slide as an example later on. If they
And by the way,
answer,
the American Amicable graded product is usually top 3 price wise for the clients, so it only makes sense to go that route.
right. If I answer all those no, then I know that I'm safely applying for the immediate death benefit plan. We still have one COVID. We still have one COVID question still.
Still with the COVID.
Yeah, we still got it. It's only the last 6 months though. So,
Okay.
but we don't decline, but it's going to get sent into underwriting if they have something,
Right.
if they've had some COVID within the last 6 months. When I continue with that, that's going to take us into something that I really think separates us from most other competitors. I'm doing bank draft, okay? And this question right here is something that we're known for. Do we want the draft to coincide with the Social Security payment schedule?
True Social Security billing is what that is, guys. If you've never heard that term before, that is exactly not Social Security billing, true Social Security billing.
Exactly. And when you select yes, you've only got 5 options to choose from. It's the 1S, 3S, 2, 3, or 4W. This really comes into play, folks, when the first or the third falls on a weekend. In a couple of months would be a great example because you've got New Year's Day coming up. So when these individuals have their Social Security money sent to them on the first or the third of every month, and it falls on a weekend, they get paid before the weekend starts. They get that money sent to them before the weekend starts. And a lot of times, a lot of carriers, they'll say that they draft on the Social Security schedule. But in that example that I just gave, they don't draft until the following Monday.
Right.
Well, individuals in this market, they get their money for, again, let's just talk about New Year's Day, which not only is a holiday, but it also falls on a weekend, if I'm not mistaken. No, it doesn't. The third does, though. Irregardless, we know that they're getting their money beforehand. We know that the government is not sending them their money on that following Monday. And what these folks will do, because their budgets are tight, they'll end up doing their shopping when they get their money, right? Well, we draft accordingly, okay? So we know that if they're getting money on the first, for example, on paper, it's actually hitting their bank that Thursday or Friday before. Because you have selected on the app, do you want the draft to coincide with Social Security payment schedule? And you've said yes. And this triggers us, this 1S here. They're getting their money on the Thursday or Friday before. That is when we initiate the draft. So going back to stickiness of this plan, this is a huge factor for that. It reduces our NSFs. When we implemented this years ago, it reduced our NSFs by 67%, literally overnight.
Wow. It's crazy that other carriers still aren't doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a game changer. That's one thing that I learned early on, back when I started selling around 2012. it was one of the first things that I realized, like, nobody's doing this. Why aren't they doing that? And then, like, you guys caught on, like, right around that time and started doing it. And that was a game changer for guys like me and, field agents back then. It was such a game changer. And for those of you who are kind of like trying to grasp the why, the final expense market is really folks that are on a low income and or fixed income. And in most cases, both. So when you're living check to check and you're depending on Social Security or disability or VA benefits to just make your bills, what happens is a lot of these folks will literally take everything out of their checking account or savings account except for like $1. And so that's how insurance companies get insufficient funds. And so with this system, we're not giving them time to make the mistake and forget about the insurance. We're drafting it on the day that Social Security pays them, whether that day is on a holiday when the banks are closed or not, because of the way that the government requires Social Security to pay those folks. Social Security is not allowed to pay a recipient late. They can only pay them on the exact day or early. And that's why this is so important. So thank you, Pete, on this.
Yeah, that does bring up another point. So let's say, for example, we've selected yes to Social Security. It's the first of every month. Once you get into this area here, do not check this box. What that e-check means is immediate draft cash with application. Okay. But if you stick with you're not checking that box. We've already said 1S. We may issue this thing tomorrow. Okay.
Right.
But we are going to follow this draft, and we're not going to draft until that next Social Security payment comes around. Okay. And by the way, and this is a good question, yes, they will have coverage. So let's say, for example, you write an app on December the 3rd. Okay. But you want the draft to coincide with Social Security funding schedule, and they get their money on the 1st of every month.
Okay.
We will draft until the end of December when they get their money.
Right.
But once we have the policy, quote unquote, issued and we verified the funds, in other words, we verified the bank account. We actually don't look at the funds that are actually in their checking account. Okay.
Right.
When we verify that bank is valid, we're not going to, we may issue it on December the 3rd or December the 4th, but we're not going to draft until they get that Social Security money before January 1. And we are good in that meantime. We are good because we've issued the plan and we know that that bank account is valid. But that comes up all the time. And so we can date, literally, we can date the policy out.
So is the policy in force at that time on approval?
Yeah, it is. We're going to honor it, Doug. We are. We're going to honor it because we understand.
That's huge.
We understand the market. We understand that just because they're not able to pay today, we've got a policy that's been issued, and we have verified that bank account is valid, and we've done everything. The individual, we're gonna underwrite it. We're gonna issue it, and then if something happens in the meantime, then we'll, it's still, of course, it's going to be a contestable claim because the death occurred within the first 2 years.
Right.
Okay. So we'll make sure that everything was good to go when we issued that policy. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. That's pretty sweet. Yeah. Not everybody's doing that. That's kind of rare, actually.
Yeah. No, we're going to take care of them because, again, they were fine at the time of that application. They were fine at the time of issue. We're not going to penalize them because they're on Social Security and they don't get their money, until the 1st of every month. The rest of the stuff, again, this is pretty straightforward as far as height, weight, things of that nature. Beneficiaries is one that comes up a lot. We have a lot of availability for beneficiaries. One thing that I like, every now and then we get questions, well, is this a valid beneficiary? If they're listed on here, then they are a valid beneficiary. Okay. And all of these are okay to be beneficiaries.
Nice.
If they're not listed on here, like if you need to do the other, don't even bother. And I'm not saying we're going to we're going to decline it 100% of the time, but you're
Right.
going to have to fill out all this information. Bottom line
Right.
is we have a lot of wiggle room for beneficiaries. And yes, we can do multiple beneficiaries and we can do up to 10. All you'll need to do is on this percentage is make sure that it all adds up equally to 100%.
Right. And I even, recommend to agents, generally if it's not on there, um, speak with the client, find someone that can be a temporary beneficiary, and then change that later.
Yep.
A beneficiary change form, it's done legally, clean, and now you can have your other, whatever that is.
Right. Right. Don't need to do a contingent. That's not required. Not a bad idea to do one if they have one, but don't need to do one to issue the policy. These are just existing coverage and replacement questions here. The next is the agent statement, and then basically we're done. One thing that I do like to point out, though, on this particular piece, the agent statement, you guys are blowing and going. You may be talking to somebody in Georgia 1 minute. You may be talking to somebody in Minnesota the next. And then you're talking to somebody from Texas, 35 minutes after that. If you ever get lost, like I probably would, this is a reminder up here as to what state you're talking to somebody in.
Okay.
And I know there's some people that go, well, how, again, if you're dealing with multiple leads in multiple states, there are times where you're like, oh, did I forget where I was here?
Right.
This is the state that you're in, and this is the state in which you are signing, okay? Because again, it's where the applicant physically is at the time of application.
Let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
In the agent's remarks, is this the spot where if an agent has an applicant who's taking, let's say, multiple high blood pressure medications, and the agent's smart and they know, one of these medications could be used for congestive heart failure, but you said you don't have congestive heart failure. Is that correct, client? And they say, that's correct. I'd never had it. This is where you put something like that in the notes. Is that correct?
Not quite.
Okay.
Not quite. And I'll explain why in a moment. But off the top of my head, what would I put in here? Let me put it to you this way. So our decision engine, after the signatures are completed, our decision engine is going to run.
Right.
There are going to be some times where there are drilled down questions. In the case that you're talking about, furosemide, for example.
Bingo.
If there's furosemide, there's going to be some drilled down questions. Is this used for congestive heart failure? That's when you would respond. The reason I'm saying be careful, the reason I'm saying, well, number one, do not include underwriting information in this section.
Okay, and I missed that part, of course. Yeah. So there you go.
I'm trying to think of something that you would want to put in here. Bottom line is this, and we'll talk more about it in a moment when I show you some examples of what those decisions look like. If you, the agent, agree that we got the decision right, may not be what we want. Maybe we want it immediate, but after some additional information was revealed and you, the agent, are like, oh yeah, they need to be graded, or oh yeah, they need to be ROP. You don't want to add additional notes, because adding additional notes, and again, we'll talk more about this when I show you some examples of some underwriting decisions on screen. Adding additional notes kicks it out of the underwriting process and triggers our underwriters to look at your case.
Right. Physical, right? Yeah, they got to pull it.
Because you've got something to say.
Right.
When you have something to say, we need to look at it. So, and again, we'll talk more about that in a few slides down the road. But if you agree with the decision, you don't want to add any additional notes, because that keeps in the auto issue process.
On. Right.
So we're talking about a day or two, it having to look at our underwriters.
Okay, gotcha.
When I continue this, and now we're done. We're done with the app, and we've got 4 different signature options with our finalist splits, or with all of them, for example.
Okay.
Sign-on screen's not used very often as much anymore because they're done remotely. Right? There's not a whole lot of face-to-face. Email for signatures not used that much. as opposed to voice or text, because it's not necessarily, it's just, there's a lot of people in this market that don't have email addresses.
It's an extra couple of steps that can be a pain in the butt for the client when they're seniors. That's what our
Right.
experience is.
Voice recording is going to be the most popular one that's going to be used. And so when I hit voice record, these are the instructions that pop up. And you're not talking to anybody. This is a recorded line. Okay. This is a 1-800 number to call, or a local number to call. The script, if you need it, well, you'll need it unless you
It
print it,
pops up.
and just save it.
But there we go.
This is it right here.
Right.
And it's an acknowledgement that they understand what they're applying for.
Right. So you do have to read the whole script, though.
You do. You
Okay.
do. It's only 3/4 of a page.
Right.
But once you dial that number,
Right.
Here we go. Once you dial that number and you enter the application number and then the pound, okay, we're going to tell you
recording.
it's all now being recorded.
Okay. Now,
But
let me just ask you, sorry not to interrupt, but so, to me, the text signature is the easiest thing if you got a client who can possibly do it. But let's say we're trying to do the text signature. That's easy. And you're going to talk to us about how easy that is in a second here. But the client's having issues and they can't do it. And then we realize we do have to do the voice signature. So all they have to do is go back and then, okay, we're going to do the voice signature instead. Correct?
Yeah, you can. Absolutely. I mean, I'm just going to go back and do text.
Okay.
So you actually saw this screen here. Okay.
Yep.
And then after I selected text, you'll simply type in their phone number and send the code, hit the send code button, which is going to send them a text. It's going to look like this. They will tell you what the code is. So then you'll type in that code and hit the verify. That is then going to send them a link that's going to look like this. Okay, so now they've gotten the second text message. When they click on the link, all they'll need to do is enter the last 4 digits of their social security number. And that is going to, there it is. And that is going to, after they hit log in, that's going to take them to the application. Okay. And then they'll just need to scroll to the bottom. They can review the application as little or as much as they want to. We know that some people will try to look over it, every single word. Some people are just going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. They'll type in their name on their phone, hit submit, and it comes back to you that it's good to go. Simple as that.
Got it. So there is a few steps in it. So it might be, for most people, probably, like you said, easier just to read the voice signature.
Yeah, it just depends on, who you're talking to, right?
Right. Exactly.
But you guys, one of the things that I think that our agent partners that have been doing this, that have a very good feel for is they get a very good feel for who they're talking to during this process.
Yep.
Is this someone that can handle this? Is this someone that can't?
Right.
They know.
Right. We do. We get the idea. Believe me, we do. And also depends on what type of lead you're using too. So some leads, like with us, we have this appointment system where the client fills out a lead form and then they have the option to set an appointment on the agent's calendar. And so we know if they're able to do that, they're probably doing it from a smartphone, and they're probably going to be able to handle the signature process right there on their smartphone too. So yeah, a lot of that does kind of coincide.
Right.
And that's basically it. So it's issued, and how long before they actually get a paper policy?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the actual decision. So after the signature process, when the decision engine runs. So when the signature process is complete, you'll go back and you'll hit submit application.
Okay.
And that's when the decision engine is going to run. And that is seconds.
Okay. So
that
is fast.
So you'll get, let me show you some examples. that I have on this PowerPoint presentation. And I'm going to scroll down to here first. So this is exactly, you mentioned CHF, you mentioned furosemide, okay?
Right.
So this is an example after I submit the application. You may see this question if they're on furosemide. Whoops,
Okay.
didn't mean to do that. I moved the thing a little bit, but it's, you know,
Yep.
the RX provider returned a prescription for furosemide. Was this
Nope.
prescribed for CHF? No. So there can be some drill down questions.
Okay.
Some dual purpose medications that we're aware of. We're not going to make a decision without giving the agent partner the opportunity to re-ask those questions to the clients and or say, hey, you didn't mention the furosemide. What is this taken for? Oh, it's taken for high blood pressure. I'm taking 20 milligrams. When you hit no, or you could get something that looks like this. The proposed insured's been approved for the ROP death benefit plan.
Right.
Because we saw Hepsera on here. Would you like to provide additional information? Well, when you ask that applicant, hey, you didn't mention Hepsera. Do you recall taking a prescription for Hepsera? By the way, that's a liver medication. You remember anything about that? And they say something to the effect of, oh, yeah, gosh, that was 4 or 5 years ago. They thought I had a liver condition. I haven't been prescribed that anymore. You type in, yes, I want to provide additional information. That's going to pop up a box where you can explain that situation.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That does. That's where you do that. Nice.
So, hey, it could be a situation, Doug, where they're diabetic and they're on gabapentin. Okay.
We see a lot.
Oh, Mr. or Mrs. Jones, you didn't tell me about this gabapentin. You have some neuropathy going on as a result of that diabetes. No, Doug, I forgot about that. I got prescribed gabapentin last March because I was doing some spring cleaning in my house, moving some furniture around. I pinched a nerve in my back. They gave me 1 script of gabapentin. Oh, well, in that case, the gabapentin is not used for complications due to diabetes. Type in that additional information. Yes, that does kick it out of the quote unquote auto issue process, but that makes our underwriters take a look at the situation. We'll look at all the other data that we've received. We'll see that 1 script for gabapentin in March of 2025, no fills or no other prescription since then. That story makes sense. Hey, I'm going to tell you a number that I used to be afraid to mention. We end up reversing the decisions over 65% of the time. Okay.
Nice.
Because we have listened to the agent feedback.
Nice.
And we will issue it as applied. So we end up issuing it as applied for in those types of situations over 65% of the time.
Nice. Yeah.
But those are some examples there. We've got some other underwriting tools. Live chat. I cannot talk about live chat enough. And we hear over and over and over again how popular live chat is. When you log on to American Amicable, there's a live chat icon on the top left. When you hit that live chat icon, there's different departments that you can live chat with. That risk assessment. We used to do risk assessments over the phone all day, every day.
Yep. I remember.
Candidly, the agent force got too big. So our hold times got too big. And it's not good for our agent partners. It's not good for our applicants that are sitting there.
No, it's
with
not.
The agent partners. So we went to live chat for risk assessments. It wasn't because we didn't want to talk to you, but it was because we needed to move faster. The live chat is not AI. You're chatting with real new business underwriting folks when you're doing this. They can handle 5, 6, 7 at a time.
Interesting.
Okay? So it ended up being a really, really popular move. One that a couple of us here were not excited about because we were worried about, wait a minute, we still want our agent partners to be able to reach out to us. But You know what I mean? So, but it ended up being a really popular move for us because it helped us get answers. We want to provide the answers to the test before you have to take the test. If you've got good information from all the pre-qualification that you guys do, if you've got good information, you're not real sure how it's going to fit with us, do a risk assessment with us online. You're going to get your answers super fast.
Hmm. Are there any like changes or anything being added to the senior choice final expense product that you know of? Anything you guys have coming up? I asked that because you guys have always stayed on top of everything as you know, basically you're one of the few companies that stays ahead of the curve.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. We certainly try to. We don't have anything we don't have anything on the radar right now. The most recent change was an increase to the max because you can do if they apply for if they qualify for immediate, you can do up to 50,000. That was a change that we made not that long ago, but we don't have any other changes other than one of the things that we are constantly working on, Doug, is we're constantly working on our decision engine revolving around MIB codes. So when there are MIB codes out there, if they are MIB codes of concern, we are going to send that, we are going to refer that to the home office. You all understand that if there's MIB codes out there, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to decline them.
Right.
But if there are MIB codes out there of concern, number one, you can't decline off of that alone. Okay. You've got to have some other supporting reason, such as prescriptions to decline. And people out there understand that if there are MIB codes out there of concern, as a carrier, you don't want to accept all those either. Okay. Because now you're putting yourself at a risk that you're not willing to take. So, but where I was going with that is we are constantly reviewing MIB codes and we're constantly noticing there's something MIB codes out there that we can't ignore. They're not MIB codes of concern. So we're constantly stripping those out and making immediate decisions in those types of situations.
Cool. Very nice. Very nice. So let me ask you, and this is something I should have asked earlier. As far as underwriting is concerned, what exactly is happening in the background that's making the decision? You know, what are you doing? Are you doing an MIB, a script check? What is it that's going on?
MIB and script check is what we're looking at right off the bat.
So it is.
MIB, yep, that's what we're looking at right off the bat. When we have those situations where an agent is challenged, quote unquote, challenged the decision, they've provided more information as to why they're on those medications. When those situations come in, we do use additional data dips in those situations. Okay. Such as medical claims data, things of that nature. That's when we'll look at other data dips. But right off the bat, it's MIB and two prescription databases.
Okay, so we get what prescription checks are. We're simply checking the medication that they've been prescribed in the past so many years. What exactly is an MIB?
Medical Information Bureau. MIB is something that most carriers subscribe to, and it is so. Anytime that you've got with most carriers, and when I say most, and I don't know the exact number, but you're talking about 90 something percent. Okay, if insurance carriers use MIB, they share information with this database when an application comes in, and that information is super coded. It is a code that I don't understand. It's a code that most of our home office people don't understand, but it's a way of sharing medical information very securely, and it's for the industry.
Right.
It's for the good of the industry that we are not, that all of us are not insuring people that are literally basically terminally ill.
Right.
Which is what? It's going to cause a tremendous amount of claims. It's going to make premiums skyrocket for everybody across the board. So when you get an app in and you prescribe to MIB, all that information is sent to this bureau.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, I guess I was hoping you knew something more that I didn't because yeah, that's basically it's a little complex. It is. And so
Well,
people
it
are like,
is.
what exactly does an MIB check for? Will they know if I was in the hospital? Will they know if I went to a doctor's appointment? I feel like that's what people are questioning, what people don't know about the MIB.
Again, it all goes back to who does that. Now the so doctor's notes and things like that don't end up in MIB. That is when we would again, if there's situations where we need to use additional data dips,
Right.
that's when we would go to those types of databases to look for that information.
Okay. All right. Riders. Let's talk a little bit about the oh, there we go. Wow, that was fast. You knew right where I was headed.
I was guessing.
Beautiful.
So yeah, a couple of these riders, well, I shouldn't have done that. A couple of these riders, I think, are again, it's another reason why our final expense products are so popular throughout the country. There are two no-cost riders on Senior Choice. One of them is not unique. One of them is a terminal illness, and everybody's got terminal illness. But there's one in particular for no cost that is available on the immediate death benefit plan, and that's the accelerated benefit rider for confined care. It works like a living benefit in the final expense market, in that if they have the immediate death benefit plan and they end up being confined to a nursing home 30 days after the policy is issued, they have the ability to accelerate some of that death benefit plan if they need to. It's a monthly benefit equal to 5% of the face amount per month. Okay, up to 5% of the face amount per month.
Okay.
So a lot of situations that a lot of you out there are familiar with, where you know we're waiting for Medicaid to kick in. They're still having to pay out of pocket for a few months to pay for that nursing home.
Right.
This is something that they have access to if they want to take advantage of it. And again, I do think that this rider, I don't know of any other final expense carriers. There may be some, but I don't know of any other final expense carriers that have this no cost rider available
Hmm.
to those that qualify for that immediate death benefit plan.
No, that's pretty nice. And it does, it may not be a lot, it may not sound like a lot, but it does help for our clients. It can
Oh,
help.
it
Really
absolutely
can.
can help. It absolutely can help. Then there's some other ones in particular that I think are, again, really help keep business on the books. The grandchild rider is the most popular one. Okay. The grandchild rider can be added on Senior Choice for as little as $1 a month per
Nice.
grandchild. There's no limit as to how many they can put on there. It can also cover great grandchildren. Okay. And it is available no matter what death benefit plan they qualify for. So not only can it help you keep policies on the books, I'll share a quick story with you in a moment. Not only can it help you keep policies on the books, it can help you place substandard business. Now, most people know that they have health conditions that are pretty significant, right? I mean, most people know that, they've got complications due to diabetes. Most people know that they've got some other, health issues, and okay, yeah, we can only offer you graded for this. We can only offer you return of premium for this. Oh, by the way, those 4 grandchildren that you wanted covered, they're still going to be covered on this plan. So it can help you place that substandard business. And that
It
rider is
does.
convertible.
It makes a
You know,
difference too. It really
yeah.
does to have
So
these,
the grand
especially at that cost.
right, and they and those grandchildren can convert that insurance into permanent insurance when they become 20 years old. So it's convertible. The story that I was going to tell you about was, and this was probably 6, 7 years ago. I hadn't been here for very long. I was talking to an agent partner. We were talking about the grandchild rider, and he said, "Hey, I'm gonna tell you, Pete, it happens all the time that I'll reach out to my clients, or my clients will reach out to me and say, "Hey, John, I'm paying $75 a month, and times are getting tight, and I need a refresher on what is it that I'm paying for here. And the agent partner told me, he says, "Hey, Miss Jones, I get it. I understand. Don't forget you've got your 4 grandchildren covered on that plan." What do you think Miss Jones said? Miss Jones was like, "Oh my God, that's right. I forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, I'm I'm good with keeping this plan," because they want their
Exactly.
children to be taken care of,
Exactly.
right? So it does so many things for the client, for the families of the client. Hey, here's another neat fact about the grandchild rider. Only in the state of Florida is a parent signature required.
Hmm.
So if you are writing one of these in Florida and you're going to put grandchild rider coverage on there, there is a parent signature that's required in the state of Florida for this. But in every other state, you don't even have to go get a parent signature to add these, to add coverage for grandchildren on there.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah.
The other one that I wanted to mention is the nursing home waiver of premium rider. I don't think I can somewhat highlight it on this slide here. This one, the only reason the nursing home waiver of premium rider is not as popular as the grandchild rider is they do have to qualify for the immediate death benefit plan to add this nursing home waiver of premium rider on there. But if they qualify for the immediate death benefit plan, this is absolutely a rider that I would recommend you guys looking at and seeing if you can add it on there. It's not, it's not going to be as expensive as you think it might be. It could be an additional anywhere from $5 to $7 a month. The older they are, the more expensive it gets naturally. But nursing home waiver of premium rider, if they qualify for the immediate death benefit plan, you add it on there. If they get confined to a nursing home for 90 consecutive days, so they're in the nursing home for 90 consecutive days. So think of it basically as a 90-day wait period, right? If they're in the nursing home for 90 consecutive days and they've got that rider on their plan, guess what we're doing? We're waiving the premium on this plan moving forward. So they are going to be able to keep their final expense coverage in place. Okay. They're not going to have to pay for it anymore. Now the
Nice.
premium has been waived and they'll be able to keep that final expense plan in force, which is good, because now we've got, look, we know that if they're in a nursing home for 90 consecutive days, chances are they're not coming out. Right. So to be able to add this on there, to be able to bring this up to your clients, when they qualify for the immediate death benefit plan. And again, that's going to be another reason why they are going to want to keep this plan.
Bingo. Very nice. Accidental death benefit agreement. I guess it's pretty cut and dry.
That one's cut and dry. The other one that I didn't talk a whole lot was a children's insurance agreement. That is something that they can add, whether it be immediate or graded. But note on final expense that age cutoff, if they're over the age of 65, the children's insurance agreement isn't available, which makes sense.
Right.
I mean, they're not going to be, that's not something that's going to turn a lot of people off. There's not going to be a whole lot of underage
Right.
children. I'm not having, I don't have any 9-year-olds in the house when I'm 77. Or
Right. I mean,
wouldn't
and I
think,
like the other writers make more sense too. I mean, if you're
right.
adding, if you're adding writers, the grandchild is huge. The nursing home waiver of premium, God forbid they ever need that. They'll be so grateful they have it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And with the accidental death, I'm assuming death of an accident, is that immediate benefit? How does that work?
So okay. So let's talk about this now. For an accidental death benefit to be added, they've got to qualify for either the immediate or the graded. Okay.
Okay.
It's not available on the ROP plan. So if they die due to an accident and that accidental death benefit has been added, that's going to be additional death benefit. I'll need to look at the agent guide to see, because our limits obviously are going to be different
Right.
between final expense and term, but that's going to add an additional uh, death benefit paid to the beneficiary. Where I was thinking on this though, take the rider out of the equation. Doesn't matter if they qualify for immediate. Matter of fact, I think it's on this slide up here. No, it's not. But it doesn't matter if they qualify for the immediate graded or return of premium plan. Let's say, for example, they die 14 months after the policy was issued due to an accident and they qualified for the return of premium. Well, if they died due to an accident, we're actually going to pay that full death benefit.
Right. Interesting. Right? Nice. Very nice.
And this was the other thing, Doug, that I was talking about in our graded death benefit plan. So you'll notice that if they qualify for graded, that 30%, if they die in year one, that's 30% of the face amount.
Got it.
That would be paid to the beneficiary.
Right. And that is true. That is a true graded. That is graded. Nice.
Yeah. If they died within months 13 through 24 and they were in that graded plan, 70% of the face amount would be paid to the beneficiary.
And then 2 years and 1 day, full coverage, 100% face.
Exactly.
Okay. And that's how that works. I think the people see the 3 years and they're like 3 years. But yeah, it's once the policy has been enforced, 2 years and 1 day. That's when that happens.
There you go.
You know what, man, that's a lot of information. And I really appreciate you coming on and doing this for me, man. Hopefully we can do something again. I wouldn't mind doing another type of interview, even talking about like other products.
I would love it. I'd love the opportunity. Again, I meant what I said. I watch your stuff all the time. It's always really informative and I think very helpful for our agent partners out there. So I appreciate what you do. And yeah, I'd love to be able to be on again.
Excellent, man. All right, buddy. Well, thanks again for joining me.
Thank you, Doug.